Hello YouTube, this is Scapegoatuser here, host of the Stonking Yuigoh podcast, and today I'm bringing you episode 3, along with a few guest hosts of mine. So let's get into the episode. Today's episode, we are going to be covering the following topics. Can old school boss monsters compete in newer formats? Interesting tech cards that you think deserve more recognition? Breakthrough Skill versus Fiendish Chain versus Effect Veiler versus Forbidden Chalice. Are they going to be all upcoming staples in this new format? And the Forbidden Trio, which one is best? This is also then followed by the usual podcasters discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the lineup of the podcasters that I have with me today. For a start, we have a new member with us tonight, and that is Draconeos 190832, I think his YouTube name is. Say hi.
Parachute pants.
Okay. We have Darkness L 1989.
Evening.
Dark Magician 84.
Coming soon to a cinema near you.
Okay then, and Emma Blue Eyes 10.
Hello, everybody.
That's also known as the only pair of boobs on the podcast, but there we go. Anyway, getting into our first topic of the evening. I do apologise, Emma, but I had to make that joke. Anyway, getting into our first topic of the evening. Can old school boss monsters compete in this new, faster format? Because, well, I've been looking at a couple of my old decks, like my Relinquish deck and my Yuigoh deck and everything, thinking, they're still good cards. They still do interesting things and have interesting effects that can essentially be triggered very, very easily. Now, can they work in a format which essentially, if my prediction is right on the March ban list, is going to be mainly Fire Fists and Atlanteans, which are going to be herp derp kill you decks? Do you think those old school boss monsters can still compete?
Well, I guess that would.
Sorry, Richie, you go first.
I guess that would entirely depend on how you build the deck.
Well,
I think play style as well is also it's also going to be an influential factor in how they will play in the future and whatnot as well. So
I think it will also depend on what you class as boss monsters, like old school boss monsters. Are you talking like the classic boss monsters of Blue Eyes, Dark Magician and all that? Or are you talking about older boss monsters that are only a few years old, like Light Swords, Blackwings?
Well, Blackwings would come under archetypes in the way I see it. I talk about boss monsters as essentially. When I mean boss monsters, I essentially mean one card that doesn't necessarily have an archetype behind it, such as Yuigoh, Relinquish, Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, Dark Magician,
Judgment Dragon.
Judgment Dragon has an archetype behind it and needs an archetype to work.
Yeah, but it's still a boss monster of that archetype, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but this is not going into archetypes. This is just classing the boss monsters themselves.
Okay, alright, fair enough.
exactly.
If we were saying, could Lightsworn decks come back? Come Judgment of the Light, probably.
Oh, that'll be very interesting to see what happens there.
What do you think, Darkness
We'll
L?
have to worry about that for at least 6 months.
Yeah, Darkness L, what's your opinion on this? You're a fellow Yuigoh player.
See what happens, I guess. It'll be what it'll be.
Well, yeah, I suppose you're right. I think your Quick Draw Yuigoh deck could probably come back in that format, because I reckon Quick Draw is going to be pretty dum-dum herps.
Yeah, Quick Draw seems like it to be pretty crazy.
Well, Quick Draw, ditch Yuigoh, and then what was your combo? Was it Limit Reverse, bring back Yuigoh, switch to defense, get second form out, continue nuking while looping Dandy?
Well, put it like this, if we get Debris Dragon at 3, that'll be funny.
If we get Debris Dragon at 3, I'll officially hate you, because you are a sack as much as it is with Gear Frame at 3. So with you with Debris at 3 just equals me facepalming many, many times.
Yeah, you'll see me on the top tables of Nationals, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you'll be on the top tables of Nationals with people going, Judge, I need a magnifying glass, I can't read you, Bell.
I'll bring up a jet too if need be, it's fine.
Awesome.
I think, well, to be honest, with effect boss monsters, they probably do, obviously, effect monsters always stand a much better chance of doing better and faster formats if there's the correct support. But for old school normal monsters such as the modern gods, as they've been called now, the red eyes, blue eyes, and dark magician and everything, it's a bit harder, obviously because not very many normal monsters are used unless they're used as tribute fodder for exceeds and stuff in certain decks, such as the heretics and everything. I mean, just as some guys have seen on my YouTube channel, from what I've told you guys, I went dueling on Tuesday. I dueled about 6, 7, 8 times. I lost all my games because my Blue Eyes deck just couldn't keep up with some of the cards that were being played there. So it was like, yeah, I've got a problem.
Is essentially that the problem with any old school boss monster is it's slow. I mean, you look at any boss monster from the GX era, and you think, well, yeah, GX and the original Yuigoh era. You think, right, well, okay, so we've got bosses like Yuigoh. We've got Relinquished, which is essentially you're drawing dead cards until you have those 2 pieces in your hand. It's essentially a 2-card combo to bring it out. And then you have to lose a monster on your field, so it works out that you're actually minusing, but enough Yu-Gi-Oh! Math. Essentially, it works out to bring out most of them that you have to either double tribute or spend most of your time getting them into the grave to bring them out from that angle. It's like I saw a Blue Eyes deck a couple of days ago, actually. Oh, I forgot to mention this to you, Emma. But essentially, it was dump Blue Eyes to the grave with, like, Foolish Burial and dump that. Get your Blue Eyes in the grave. Use Whitestone and Legend cards of Constance, trade in Engine. Get them in the grave and then recur them with like 3 Call of the Haunted. I think there was Birthright in there, etc. Just to bring it.
I think that's classified as a Blue Eyes Resurrection deck.
Yeah, essentially it was.
It just focuses on like discarding Blue Eyes to the graveyard and then just. I think it's also called a Blue Eyes. I think it's also called a Blue Eyes Graveyard Dragon's Power deck.
Essentially,
I mean, Shining Dragon's classed in that kind of deck as well because it gets a power up from the graveyard if you use Shining Dragon. But
yeah,
I think it's just in general called Graveyard Dragon Power if you focus on sending your dragons to the grave and resurrecting them for easy summons and to get effects and stuff like
that. Yeah, but it's essentially it was quite cool because you could use Dragon's Mirror, banish 3, bring out Ultimate Dragon. I nearly said 5-headed dragon then, but you could do that as well. Banish 3 Blue Eyes, make
Last Dragon to do the trick.
Yeah, exactly. And then you bring out Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, banish that or do whatever it is, summon Shining. Then you can activate.
Tribute.
If it's ban it, well, tribute that, and then you can play Return from a Different Dimension, bring back your 3 Blue Eyes, and there you've got Herpy Derpy.
Yeah, I used to do that combo in my old Blue Eyes decks like a long time ago.
Essentially, though, it's not too hard to pull off.
It is quite a specific strategy unless you focus your deck around it.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's a very all or nothing.
My experience in general. But since I don't focus on like a lot of remove from play cards or anything like that, my deck has gone a completely different direction, to be honest. So.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, Dark Magician, what do you think about if you were to play a similar type of deck style with your Dark Magician deck? Do you think it would work better or not as good as the pure Spellcaster version that you have at the moment?
I suppose resurrection strategy could work for the Dark Magician as well. I don't know how similar it would be to my old Prism Magician deck, but it should, in theory, be effective.
Well, essentially, it would be like your Prism Magician deck, but without the whole dead draw with running 1,000 Knives and whatever the other one is. I can't remember the other.
No, that was what put me off running Prism Magician in the end. But see, it's just one of the few common problems I have playing a Dark Magician deck. I feel like I can't make up my mind about how to run it, especially recently. I mean, ever since I got the Prophecy stuff and made the deck Prophecy Dark Magician.
I swear you said pussy stuff just then, mate.
Someone's mind isn't a
Cold quality. There is none.
Since I got the Prophecy stuff, it's just been really awkward trying to get the deck just right.
Yeah. I think that's the problem with any deck, though. Any deck that's not mainstream and that people play. Because you look at what... I think everyone in this school plays something that no one else plays, if I'm correct. I mean, Emma plays Blue Eyes, obviously. Dark Magician plays Dark Magician, obviously. Darkness Soul, you've got... What, besides your Quick Draw You Bell decks, have you got that realistically no one plays?
Light Swans, but I like to call them 5-card Derp Swans.
JD, Light Ray Gearfried. What?
Or the new one recently, my Dragon Roots.
Oh, Dragon... What, is that the Piper Dragons?
Uh-huh.
Ah, yes.
Piper Dragons?
Yeah, essentially it's Chaos Dragons running Piper and the Plant Engine, and it's really, really cool.
I've been against it. It's an interesting deck, to say the least.
Well, essentially, it's the funnest deck I've actually seen played, and I tested it myself, and it's derp. It's like, oh look, pluses off of Spore. But anyway, then I don't really know what you Draconeers you've got. I know you've got some really interesting decks like Bahamut, Shark, Rabbit, which is like, admittedly it's similar to your Dino Rabbit deck, but not many people are going to go fully base it around going into Bahamut, Shark, Acid Golem for game combo, but even though it's a bit herped
One guy on Dueling Network seemed to automatically assume it was Dino Rabbit.
Yes.
And bloody called me a noob because of it and bloody ditched the duel as soon as I dropped Dolka.
What's the problem with Dolka? It's a perfectly balanced card.
Yeah,
Well,
fine. It's lovely.
And what else was I going to drop against Zen Mines?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's realistically enough on this topic. So we're going to move into a topic I'm sure is going to cause a little bit of controversy. And that is the interesting cards that you think personally deserve more recognition. Now, everyone has two. I'm going to save mine for last. And I'm going to open the floor up to you guys to see what you think.
God.
And there was tumbleweed through Skype.
Must wing it. Must wing it.
Right, anyone?
I think I'll go first because I can give you a definition for one. I'm still trying to decide the second card, to be honest with you.
Well,
so
we can come back. We can come back. We can all do one and go round a second time.
Yeah, that's true. I think the first one I would definitely say is a good tech card, but it's only for specific decks, would be Photon Sanctuary.
How did I know you bloody talk about that card?
Because it's a Harpy Derp card that works so well with my deck, okay?
Well, yeah, point. Oh, look, do this. Oh, look, I've got blue eyes. What?
And it works for any light type deck or any photons and everything as well.
Yeah, it is
If anybody doesn't know what it does, basically it summons 2 tokens, Thunder type, Light type, level 4, 2000 attack, 0 defense, both in defense mode. Obviously, they cannot be used as Synchro or Exceed material, but in the turn you activate it, you can't summon anything else but light monsters. With running Light and Darkness Dragon and 3 Blue Eyes, yeah, you can see how it works in my deck, so which is why I love it. It's, as I said, it's specifically only for light decks or light monsters if you plan to run them. So it is a specific card, but it's a very, very good tech card. Use it with the Galaxy Eyes.
Yeah, Galaxy, that's kind of deadly.
Imagine this, right? Imagine the scenario. It probably would be difficult to pull off. Play 3 Photon Sanctuary if possible, or 2 first, because there's no limit to how many you play in one turn. Summon out 2 Galaxy Eyes with its special ability. Play the 3rd Photon Sanctuary, summon out a 3rd Galaxy Eyes, overlay into Overlord, Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, Harpy Derp, good game.
Yeah, Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon is a pain.
I like that card. I want it. It's just because it's basically a shine dragon in a new form.
Okay, so shall I just
just butt in. Just go.
All right. I thought I might bring attention to Space Cyclone.
I don't know.
It's a very interesting quick play spell. Detaches 1 Exceed material from a monster. Very simple, yet very effective.
Is that thing that you can use to go detach one from like a Lagia or something and just go, ha, you have no negates?
Yeah, exactly. As soon as they drop Lagia, just Space Cyclone it, they are royally screwed.
Well, you either negate it or lose the material.
Yeah, pretty much. But either way, he's not going to be able to negate anything else, like bloody, I don't know, mirror forces or anything like that.
Yeah, essentially true.
Exactly. So
Right.
I tried starting it, I think, like months ago. Didn't seem to work out that particularly well, but then again, I didn't really get that much testing in, so I kind of gave up on it a bit early. I still think it'll do pretty decently, though. It's stuff. It's just most of the Exceeds monsters that are out there they only need one overlay unit, so...
Right, so I think, seeing as I know what everybody's going to be choosing, I think Darkness L should take this one, because he's got a couple of good cards. Or one good card for now.
Right, basically... first card being is Black Corner Heaven. Reason being is because it's one of those cards where some people really take the living daylights out of it, but at the same time, it depends where the format is going, because essentially it can only do things like Thunder King, where it can only do inherited summons. So, in situations where if you go face down a rabbit deck, so against the Laggies, the Dolkers, you don't have to worry about using up your bottoms to get rid of negations. Essentially,
it's like a solemn warning for Exceed and Synchro summons.
Not quite. It's essentially, you've really got to know what deck to play against. But essentially, as an example, you could play against Glad Beast, but half the time they're tagging out for other effects. You only really effect against Gyzerus or Hyrokrinos. So in my situation, I would probably say things like Swans, Wind-Ups, essentially anything like that really just is good for Black Corner Heaven. Second card being right now is what card called? I think I'll get it in a minute. The Steelboy Calcos.
Oh, I knew you'd say that card. I knew it.
Wow.
Essentially, right. This card can conflict with a lot of decks right now, because I was going to say, oh, you've got in Chaos Dragons that conflict your XC plays. Not essentially, because if you've got a board, you know how to play it correctly. You'll go on first turn, or make you'll play the seal first before you do special summons, or as it conflicts, obviously you make look, Red Eyes, like Holzer, okay, seal, so just wasting my time. So essentially you just go seal, then make your plays.
So essentially in Chaos Dragons it's really good.
I like the Steelboy Calcus right now because obviously it's kind of getting us in towards a card out in Lord of Tachyon Galaxy, which I'll give a brief mention just on the subject because it has a similar effect. Basically, there's a card coming out called Shark Fortress. It's a generic rank 5 with 2 level 5s. 21 attack, I can't remember its defense, but it doesn't matter right now. Once per turn, you can attach material, target one of your monsters you control. It could be any monster you control. It can attack twice its turn. And then secondary effect, while Shark Fortress is on the face up on the field, your opponent cannot select your other monsters as targets for attacks. So essentially, it's kind of like a Steelboy Calcos, because obviously you've got the aspect of you can control the board of what is being attacked and what you're attacking on your opponent's side. So it's good that card advantage to that extent. But obviously, you know, if you get it happens.
Yeah. Right.
That card is insane. I want it so bad.
Oh yes, it is insane. Go Dark Magician with your first card.
Oh, my first card.
Well, you can actually do both, but seeing as going round, I can't be asked to do now.
Okay, the first card is underrated. The other one is something funny, which I thought I'd cite. Okay, the first one is Impenetrable Attack. It's a very nice card from Return of the Duelist. In case you don't know what it does, I'll just read the effect. During the battle phase, activate one of these effects. Target one monster on the field. It cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects during this battle phase, or during this battle phase. So I picked up a few just in case I use this in any of my decks. Haven't been able to fit it in, but essentially could be a really nice card to add with a standing trap lineup.
So essentially, Impenetrable Attack is sort of like a Wabaku.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's Wabaku crossed with Threatening Roar that's been making eyes at, I don't know, Spirit Reaper.
Definitely sounds like an effective card.
Right, so who hasn't done their second card yet?
Me.
Well,
Aye.
you two go.
Okay. The second card is again, it's a tech for dragons really, because to be honest, I think Dragons is pretty much the only deck I'm really comfortable playing with. It's Hardened Armed Dragon.
No. There's a penis joke in there somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, you can send one
awesome.
level 8 or higher monster from your hand to the graveyard and special summon this card. So good for the graveyard dragon powered decks and everything, or any level 8 or higher monster you happen to use. If you tribute this card for the tribute summon of a level 7 or higher monster, the monster cannot be destroyed by card effects. Now, interesting enough, even though it's a dragon monster, it can be used by any deck that utilises the powers of level 8s and above, or level 7s and above as well, to an extent. But the problem is, what puts a lot of people off this card, I think, is because it has to be used for tribute summon, and a lot of people
don't like tribute summon.
Tribute summons. Well, of course I do, because I like the old. I'm pretty old fashioned.
Well, actually, the only tribute summons people find necessary are monarch summons because they're impacting the board. Because this game's all about now going. I can use as little cards to make you lose as much advantage as possible, but you know, that's his Yuigoh.
It's just.
So I actually have teched this in my Blue Eyes deck a few times before, but I'm not one for discarding dragons to the graveyard because I've got no rule, because that's just not my kind of playstyle. But I've seen this teched in some Dragoonity decks for Leviathan or Light and Darkness and everything.
Okay.
With that light and darkness Leviathan loop or something in the Dragoonity, something like that.
Oh, what, the Armor Leviathan loop where you can equip.
Yeah, that one. Yes.
You equip it, and then when it gets destroyed, the whole field goes boom. You summon the Leviathan and equip, so essentially you can never get rid of the 20. Is 27 in it?
Yeah, pretty much, or 28, I think it is.
There's one of the two.
Or something like that. Yeah, but I think it's a good little tech for any deck that utilises the power of high levels, basically, whether it be dragon or whatever. But it's just the fact that because it protects your monster by stops the card effects, destroy. Which is quite big or has been quite big in a lot of formats. It's mainly been negation and destroy, to be honest, so it's a bit of a little protection, but it's just the fact that it has to be tribute summoned that puts people off it. But I think it's a good little card for anybody who might want to protect their monsters a bit better.
Essentially, it's good with Obelisk.
Yeah, you could actually use it with Obelisk in that as well, like a god deck, to be more specific.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Draco, your last card.
Me? Alright. Blade Knight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I figured I might as well give this a mention. This thing is pretty awesome. I teched it in one of my earliest versions of Elite Beat Hero. At the time, it didn't exactly work to the greatest of extents, but now that I think about it, it's definitely worth siding in against Chaos Dragon. Because you know they're going to have 3 Raikou, and they're almost certainly going to have Night Assailant. This thing just rolls over them. Plus, you have 2k Beat Stick. Like with Elite Beat Hero, you're going to pretty much throw all your hand onto the field. This thing's going to be a 2k Beat Stick, so it runs over crap like TK.
Yeah, you have a point there, because with what I'm assuming you mean to be Bubble Beat, you just set your hand.
Yeah, something like that.
Like set your hand, summon Stratos. Oh, okay. I now have no hand. Blade Knight, 2k beat, and run over those Thunder Kings, make those Miracle Fusion plays or Exceed plays.
Yeah, pretty much.
Seems legit. So, the 2 cards I want to discuss, one of them is going to get a lot of hate, and the other one is going to get people going, but the first card I want to discuss is a real favourite of mine. It's an ultra rare from Generation Force, essentially that was overlooked not because it had a bad effect, but because it's too hard, too situational, air quotes. And that is Raigeki Bowl, or as I call it, Raigeki Whiskey. Essentially, its effect is, each time a monster you control declares an attack, place 1 Thunder counter on this card. You can send this card with 4 or more counters to the graveyard to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So essentially, not only is it MST bait, because if you can get your monsters attacking multiple times, you can just flip it and then just go, right, I'm going to blow the board. But the main thing is, Raigeki Bottle is essentially, it's a dark hole for trap-based decks. So I'm currently taking the 1 copy. in my macro Black Garden Chain Beat deck, just as like something fun, because essentially you run so many continuous or trap cards that they're going to want to hit. You're running macro Cosmos Black Garden, and just being able to flip a Raigeki break with pseudo indestructible monsters just says, "Oh hi, come at me, bro." Essentially, it's, do you has MST? If not, I'm going to blow your field up and then keep swinging with 1950 and 14 beaters that are immune to all traps, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Essentially, the second card is Meteon the Time Lord. Now, people wonder...
That bloody thing.
The reason he's good is essentially, if you build your deck correctly, it's a card that you can top into and go, well, I've just topped into a dark hole that's going to burn the field. I've done it against wind-ups. I've maxed them. They've gone detach, call, spells, because obviously they're fearing the dark hole. When you've drawn, like, I think I drew about 12 cards off this one wind-up player. I then proceed to go for my turn. He attacks me, I drop Battle Fader, and he then plays Soul Taker on it. Don't ask. He Soul Taker my Battle Fader. So then my next turn, I go normal summon Meteon, attack, return your entire field, which comprised of, I think it was Shockmaster, no, it wasn't, he didn't, yeah, he did the Shockmaster loop, so he had Shockmaster, all that jazz, and returned it to the hand, and then dealt him, I think, 1,200 points of damage. And it just won me the game, because essentially you return a field, being able just to return a field and do burn damage for how many monsters there are times 300, and it being normal summonable, and the fact that it goes back to your deck without actually having to really invest much effort into the card, other than a normal summon, is really good. Plus, it combos well with Creature Swap, because you can Creature Swap it to your opponent, then during their standby phase it goes back to your deck, so it's like, interesting.
It gets even more interesting when said strategy is rolled in a deck that also runs Lava Golem.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Oh god.
Anyway, I personally think all these cards we've been talking about, especially the Photon Sanctuary, Blade Knight, and Black Horn of Heaven ideas, are actually ideas that you could be seeing play next format. I think Photon Sanctuary would be more for decks essentially based around Tribute Summoning, Light and Darkness Dragon, or Galaxy Eyes, because I can see the format going to a point with the Galaxy monsters where that might actually be a viable strategy and not as slow as it is currently. Or I can just see it being used in a token-based deck, along with things like Token Sunday.
Especially if photons and light monsters in general get a lot of support in that new Judgment of Light booster pack after the Taxion Galaxy, and it could possibly happen.
Essentially, depending on what Judgment of the Light does, depends on whether that card is going to be playable, but it could be playable in token-based strategies. Darkness Earth's suggestion of Black Horn of Heaven, I think, is going to be very relevant coming up into the next format, just sheerly because of the amount of inherent special summons that there are going to be. Because I don't know if anyone here has played Fire Kings, but myself, Darkness Cell, and Draco Neos, because I know we've all played against them. And essentially that negates that Tiger King, which proceeds to go, I'm a walking skill drain. It negates essentially all of their power plays, which is to Exceed. And Darkness Cell, correct me if I'm wrong, but would it be able to negate the effects like Abyss Spike, not Abyss Spike, the Abyss Turge or whatever it's called, Abyss whatever it is.
Abyss
the new,
Megalo?
Abyss Megalo and the new one.
No, because they reveal like Wind Up Shark. Again, it only reveals inherent summons. Anything through a summon through a card effect won't work, except if only summon one can do that.
So essentially, it can't negate those like I thought.
So essentially, the only thing that really can kill the Mermail matchup with Black Horn of Heaven is Mulan Galicia. And if you've not been marksman or anything, then essentially you can kill their Exceeds as well. But by then they've controlled with marksman on the board anyway.
Yeah, essentially that. A better card would be just deciding Dimensional Fisher or Macrocosmos, really, wouldn't it?
It's all about debunk, my friend.
I hate you, my friend, because that card is awesome, my friend.
You like to hate me so much.
I only hate you because I think you debunked my Effect Veiler when I really needed it. I think we were testing Macro Rabbit and you debunked my Veiler when I needed it, and otherwise you'd win. I was just like, Senor, this is not cool. To be fair, it was all on the top deck, so I don't really care. Anyway, this part of the podcast is where myself and Darkness L are going to have an argument. So sit back and enjoy. This topic is Breakthrough Skill versus Fiendish Chain versus Effect Veiler versus Forbidden Chalice.
What about my second card?
Oh, fuck, I forgot your second card. Sorry, I do apologise. Go ahead, Magician.
That's alright. The second card, I wasn't gonna tell anyone about until I revealed it in a duel, but since the subject came up, I thought I'd say it anyway. Now, it's something funny I'm trying to side against Dark World, but I guess it could work against Ulan Glacier, the Elemental Lord. It is Rainbow, the Overlord of Dark World.
Weren't people siding that in GK format, when GK's had 3 Royal Tributes, 3 Pot of Duality... Well, it was when GK's had 3 Duality, 3 Upstart, 3 Royal Tribute.
Yeah, I forgot about Reapers. Thanks for the idea. But yeah, it's quite funny. Use a Dark World card against Dark World.
Yeah, essentially it does work. I mean, some people have been siding like gold or silver because they do essentially what Rainbow does, but it's also not a level 8, so it's not so much of a dead draw. But essentially it does that.
I mean, it's probably not ideal to play in Dark World itself, but playing against Dark World, I think it would be quite funny to get rid of like their swarm of Dark World monsters, or their troll back row, which includes Gates and Dark Smog.
Yeah, that's going to be annoying if someone actually manages to get that off against my... I think it's got 26 traps in my current deck that I'm testing.
Yeah,
26.
Yeah, go on.
I think it's 26 or 27, I can't remember.
That awkward moment when they play Dark World Dealings and you discard Neck and Main King.
Oh. No, that awkward moment when they play Dark World Dealings and you go...
I could play that.
That awkward moment when they go Dark World Dealings, you go Chain Macro.
That awkward moment when they go Dark World Dealings and you go Natura Beast.
That awkward moment when they're Dark World Dealings when you have a Natura Bamboo Shoot on the field.
That awkward moment when we're not going anywhere with this podcast. Continue.
That awkward moment. Neck and Main King.
That awkward moment when the host's bladder is full. Be right back. Welcome back. Anyway, that was a lovely piss. Anyway, this is the point of... Getting back to the topic, this is a point of the podcast where me and Darkness L are now going to have an argument, as I forgot about the Dark Magician earlier on in this Skype call. I forgot about his second card in the last topic. So now we're getting into Breakthrough Skill versus Fiendish Chain versus Effect Veiler versus Forbidden Chalice, Grimsby City to Town 0, Millwall 1. I don't know. Are all of the cards I just listed going to be upcoming staples? Because I am of the impression that they are. So I'll start by going over the cards, then we'll get into the argument. We start with Breakthrough Skill, which is a newly released ultra rare in Cosmo Blazer. Its effect is target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, negate the effects of that face-up monster until the end of the turn. During your turn, except when this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your grave to target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, negate that target's effects until the end of the turn. So essentially, it's a double effect value. Then we've got Fiendish Chain, which I'm sure everyone listening to this is not a massive idiot and actually knows what Fiendish Chain does. So, Fiendish Chain is target 1 face-up effect monster on the field, its effects are negated, and it also cannot attack. When that target's destroyed, destroy this card. The same goes for Effect Veiler, but I'm going to state it. It's a level 1 light spellcaster tuner. During your opponent's main phase, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to target 1 face-up effect monster your opponent controls, negate it until the end phase. And the last card we have is Forbidden Chalice, which is a quick play spell card, which says target 1 face-up monster on the field until the end phase against 400 attack, but its effects are negated. Try saying that 5 times fast. Now.
Babbling, bumbling man of baboons.
Okay then. Now, this is where the argument kicks off, because I personally think that Breakthrough Skill and Fiendish Chain or breakthrough skill in general, is actually better than Effect Veiler. It is more versatile. It can be used at any point during your opponent's turn, and just essentially, and then on your turn, if you're staring down something like a Dulker in Chaos Dragons or Light Sworn. Oh, well, you've got that card that annoys me. Get out. Essentially. But that's the way I look at it. Fiendish Chain is also probably better than Effect Veiler in my eyes coming into this format, because again, they're both traps, so people will read them as solemn warnings. You can't bluff an Effect Veiler as a solemn warning, just saying. Effect Veiler, I love Effect Veiler to pieces. I've done lots of good stuff with Veiler, and I run 3 in my current deck, but essentially it's just, I'm thinking the format's going to get to a point where cards like Breakthrough Skill and Chain are going to be better, because more effects aren't activating in the main phase. Essentially, more effects are activating in the battle phase, or the end phase, or whatever phase that's not main phase, so you can still essentially then activate the Breakthrough Skill and Chain to compensate for it. And I've never used Chalice, so I have no experience on that. Now, floor's open.
It's not only that, but Effect Veiler requires timing. I mean, all the cards require timing, but Effect Veiler, I think, is probably the toughest one to actually time correctly, because obviously you're discarding a card from your hand. Whereas with Breakthrough Skill and Fiendish Chain, they're sort of basically, well, Breakthroughs are basically a double Effect Veiler, and Fiendish Chain is a permanent effect. So no matter what, with those 2 trap cards, at least you know you've got it on the field, and you don't have to worry about it being discarded or destroyed or anything, because obviously with Effect Veiler it's different, because you're discarding a card advantage and everything.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's not very rare that it happens, but people can Monster Reborn an Effect Veiler and use it for their own advantages, whereas with the trap cards you can't.
Sorry, Emma. Darth Magician, would you please pull your microphone out of your nose? Then stop breathing down it like it is, because seriously, I'm starting to think, Luke, I am your father.
I'm sorry. This is my response to that theory.
Oh, yeah, minute.
This episode is essentially no real Yuigoh talk at all. It's just us having a laugh.
Wait till the argument.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the argument to start.
Right, let's go, guys.
Now, essentially, you look at Effect Veiler. Your opponent doesn't know you have it. Same with Breakthrough Skill and Chain. The problem is, with Effect Veiler, it's kind of easy to play around, because in the game now you tend to analyse the field, but more also analyse their opponent's hands, because you look at that and go, how many cards in hand? Oh, I've got 6. Well, what are the chances he's got Veiler? Or what are the chances he's got a Trag? Because the game's evolved into a point where it's all about the hand traps. And I think it's going to get to a point where those hand traps are not going to be run as much. I mean, with Mermaid, as long as there's Mermails floating around, I don't think any of these cards are going to be incredibly good. But, well, they're still going to be good against everything bar Mermail. But the point is, people aren't going to be playing Effect. They've actually started dropping it from their decks and are running cards like Chain. I've seen people siding in Chains and not maining Veilers, because Veiler tends to not count Veiler as a monster. You tend to count it as more of a spell or trap type card, because you never really summon Effect Veiler unless you're going for the synchro with a Chaos Sorcerer or something, or using it as a light for BLS or something. It's not really a card that is always going to do you good. I mean, not saying that Breakthrough Skill and Chain will do, but at least with Breakthrough Skill you can set it down and bluff your opponent if you're very good at bluffing.
Exactly.
I like Fiendish Chain, but the problem is it's 3 MSTs. It's just likely to get popped a lot of the time.
Yeah, the problem is people have 3 MSTs, but how many people actually use 3? 2 seems to be more. 2 seems to be
my Rainbow News today.
2 seems to be more the number people use now.
Some people might even just use a Heavy Storm and 1 Mystical Space Typhoon, because they rely on their hand traps to do all the work for them.
Yeah, it's essentially the point where your hand has become better than everything else.
Yeah.
Only problem is though, right? It comes down to personal preference. If you're running a deck that relies on getting your combos off straight away, run 3 MSTs.
Well, yeah.
If you can afford to justify a deck where you've got other options, not just heavy storm MST, then run 2, and then obviously start the third if need be for that matchup.
Essentially, we've gone completely off topic from talking about what we were. We're now talking about MSTs. Brilliant. It's awesome. Anyway, back to the topic hand. I am going to let you guys discuss this now because I think I've discussed this till I'm blue in the face. So, have at you.
Yeah. I think we've kind of given Forbidden Chalice a bit of a shaft here. We've been going on a tangent about the first three, but we haven't gone...
I would actually, if you want my personal opinion, I would actually run Forbidden Chalice over all 3 of them because Forbidden Chalice is probably one besides the breakthrough skill that can be played in the damage deck. So if you're running 2 flip effects, which are not as common, but you can still rely on Knight Assailant and Raikou mainly, and possibly Morphing Jar.
I don't even think you can play breakthrough skill in the damage step because it doesn't auto attack and defense.
Oh no, it doesn't. Sorry, I think I would. No, it doesn't. You're right. My bad. I would prefer Forbidden Chalice in place of Effect Fail and all that because, again, if you keep it in your hand, because it's a quick play spell, you can play it pretty much in almost any phase.
Yeah.
And it also reduces attack. So you might not want to stop an effect or something, or it increases attack, or I can't remember.
Yeah, it increases attack by 400.
Increases attack. Right,
anyway, 400 point
I'm
boost,
getting confused because I use other forbidden cards. So it might be that 400 attack boost might be enough to win a game.
Yeah, I see Chalice as the most versatile of the 3 because you run Skill, Chain, and Veil. They're all geared to doing the same thing. Stop that effect. Whereas Chalice you can use more proactively because you go, oh, well, you've got Cyber Dragon. I'm sitting on a Neo Salos. Attack, drop, chain, damage step. Fuck you.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, I personally would put 4th place Chain, 3rd place Effect Vader, 2nd place Chalice, and 1st place Skill.
I agree on your first place, but I personally would switch Chain and Veiler because they're in my eyes they're kind of tied.
Mate, because essentially, this is where I was going to start with. Basically, the reason the Chain at the bottom is because essentially that thing is MST'd, it's done, right?
Yeah, you have a
with
point.
Effect Veiler, you can make more plays. Effect Veiler, it can be so throw off your opponent off activates in hand. You can summon it through 1-for-1. It's a target with the Debris Dragon. You can use it to put Arcane up plays. Essentially, Venus Chain is a good card. Negates the effect, fine. Stops the attack, but it's 2 volumes to MST. It's absolutely dead as sin when the monster Xyz with. So you're just sitting on a dead card and you can't do Gauze. Happy times, right? Effect Beta, I've said my piece on that. 2nd place was Forbidden Chalice because the reason being, again, it's an offensive and defensive card. As Blue Eyes 10 said, using the damage step, and obviously you can play around with effects. But essentially, Breakthrough Skill's the better card right now.
Breakthrough Skill's the better card, but you could argue the same thing that you've been saying about Fiendish Chain. That, 3 MSTs, they MST it. What now? You've lost your effect value for that turn.
There's no problem with the Breakthrough Skill. If that being is, they MST it, then you're fine. Because remember, the secondary effect, you can banish it during your turn to negate a monster. So essentially you're getting a free effect negation anyway.
Yeah, that is true. You're not just getting the max out of the card.
That's the thing, because obviously, I'll MST your thing, okay, I'll chain out your monster. And then next time, during the next turn, I'll banish it to negate your Zen-Maze, I'll have a Trappers on live, and just go bomb the field.
Yeah, you have a point. Personally, the way I would rank them is Chalice in 4th purely because I haven't used it. I understand that it's the more versatile card, but because I have not used it, I cannot really comment on its ability purely because if I had used it more, other than in like a couple of side decks where I've just thrown it in, then I could probably comment on how well it does for how I play. But I've only really used Effect Veiler, Chain, and Breakthrough Skill. The third actually has to be Chain. It's incredibly versatile. Being able to just drop the chain and stop a monster from attacking, even though people say, it's 3 MST format, they can exceed. You just have to play the card smartly. It's essentially you don't go chaining everything. You chain smartly. They drop that gauze and you don't have a direct response for it. You chain the gauze. I mean, people say, oh, but there's 3 MSTs. Well, if you work out probability, the chances of you actually having one of those 3 MSTs in your hand when you want it, when they have that chain, it doesn't especially work. And especially if you play a high back row deck, like I like playing high back row decks, it gives you that ability to stall while drawing into other removal or ways to beat over said card. Effect Veiler has to be in second just purely because it's Effect Veiler. It's level 1, so it triggers Piper. As Darkness was saying, target for debris, target for Arcanite, and you can do silly plays with it. And I will agree with him that Breakthrough Skill is the top card because essentially it's not really as vulnerable to MST. And if your opponent does MST it, then they're a bit batty crackers, if I'm honest, because then you can just do it during your turn and still do your play anyway.
They're not really batty crackers, are they? Because they don't actually essentially know what it is until they actually play the card.
Well, yeah, alright, point. But you look at it and you think, well, that you MST a Breakthrough Skill and you think, well, I've wasted that MST.
Essentially, right now, MST is great, but it's unnecessarily needed a 3 because effectively most of the traps right now are either chainable or they're not. MST is a 50-50 shot right now.
Yeah, essentially.
Depending on the matchup, you don't really need the MSTs, but I think it's smart though because essentially, also if I play against Chaos Dragons, I don't really need my MSTs. They start into like stupid amount of control traps, and you're like, oh wait, I should have my MSTs. It's all about the mind games these days.
Yeah, it's all about mind games. It's like with my deck.
It's kind of funny you actually mentioned mind games because I was reading volume 3 and 4 of the original Yu-Gi-Oh manga, and in the the duel where Yugi goes up against Panic or Player Killer of Darkness.
No.
In Duelist Kingdom, where he goes up against like the King of Yami Makai and Castle of Dark Illusions.
Castle of Dark Illusions. Yeah.
Yeah, all that was essentially a mind game. It wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh! It was just a mind game with words and all that, and it just reminded me of that for some reason.
Fair enough.
Getting
back to what Darkness was saying, it's like in my deck, I'm playing Piper Chaos. Now, people see my deck and they go, oh, well, he's not playing back row. I'll side out my 3 MSTs and potentially my Storm. I'll side into 3 Royal Decrees and just go, hi. You're getting shat on now. It's the other fact that I don't need to run back row removal because essentially I have no field. So I can, if you're a smart player, I'm not saying that I am all the time, but I can make fairly good reads. Solemn Warning's not a bother for me because essentially the deck can just drop boss monsters out of its arse. And you just think, well, also the deck is kind of resilient. It's like Chaos Dragons. You stop one summon, then you risk them doing about 3 or 4 more.
Well, essentially, if you're a smart Yu-Gi-Oh player, or one trick I've learned over the last couple of months in testing, and obviously, if you're going second in game 2, then obviously side out 1 Solemn Warning, because essentially, you're losing out a 1-3 summon anyway, because obviously you don't get that first turn set of warning, and they get a power card out, and you draw the warning, you can't get yourself, this could be a better card right now. So. Essentially,
it's like I go game 2, sometimes depending on the deck I'm playing. If I'm playing Heroes, I side out my warnings game 2, because essentially I have... I side in Bottomless over them because essentially you have then 2 Compulse, 2 Dimensional Prisons, 2 Bottomlesses, 3 Gemini Sparks, Super Polymerizations, and whatever the rest of your side is. You've got enough. Warning is just sort of now becoming more of a game 1 card to shut down Earth Summon, and then it comes out game 2 and 3, just like Solemn Judgment. That is one card that you side out every game 2 and 3, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Well, no, essentially, the thing is that if you're going third game 3, if you lose game 2, then you essentially say, oh, fine, I'll put my warnings back in because I got the first turn advantage.
Yeah, essentially. But getting back to this whole Breakthrough Skill versus Chain versus Veiler versus Chalice, are they all going to be staples? More than definitely at one point or other in the future. Breakthrough Skill is a sleeper card, so pick them up now. Chain... Again, it's dipped in price. You can probably pick them up on eBay for about a tenner each if you're looking at the supers. Effect Veiler, that's kind of, again, it's not hard to pick up, but pick them up while you can, because even though Effect Negation is not going to be good in this format, in another format it might be good. If Konami do what I hope they do with the ban list and just slow down the format like they want to do for the Fire Fist archetype to really, really shine. Then they slow down the format completely. Make sure there's no herp decks. And then these kind of cards will be really essentially amazing because they hit MST to 2. Where it was fine.
How easy would it be to get hold of a breakthrough skill though?
It's not too hard.
I have actually been looking up some prices at this point on eBay, like for Australian stuff. I'm seeing one $16, seeing one $22.
I've won.
They're going up.
I mean,
I'm
I've
sitting
got
here, bloody
two.
$41 and still bidding.
I've got 2. I'm just very lucky to win these. I managed to pick up one for £10.50, and
Yeah.
I've picked up. Oh, I haven't won this one yet, but essentially I know I have. And then I've got another one for £7, and there's one I'm watching for £9.99. So it's kind of like, well, you know,
It seems decent.
It's all about you look at the items on eBay and you just go, right, I want that, and I'm going to get it. The problem is, essentially, you don't need 3 breakthrough skills. You only ever need, I think it's like with Effect Vader, you only ever need 2, unless you're basing your deck around Effect Negation. And I personally think 3 would be a bit unnecessary anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like 3 Effect
I'm going to
Vaders.
pick one up when I get my Cosmo Blazer booster box, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Right. Or you can just go with the best negation card in the whole entire game, which is Light and Darkness Dragon, which just stops everything. Unless you have a loop monster, which can screw you over, basically.
Light and Darkness Dragon, meet Treeborn Frog. Light and Darkness Dragon, meet any spirit monster. Meet Omnist. I can't remember, but there's loads more ways to get rid of it.
Meet White Duck Rabbit. Oh my god, that was embarrassing.
Rabbit, banish. Meet Evil Swarm Thunderbird, which is essentially a 1950 version of the rabbit. And cool, because you can also have bird every time it's summoned.
It's hard for me to choose who these 4 is the best. I suppose breakthrough skill would be better, although the thing about Effect Vader is if I'm not using her effect, I like to combine it with Gauls and Oracle's token and synchronate.
Yeah, it's essentially one of those things where you can drop your Gauls, make an easy Scrap Dragon or an easy Arcanite Magician or
Arcanite Magician's level 7, but
whatever. Smart ass. It's like you can even combine it with the good thing about Effect Vader is, especially in my deck, I use Kinkabayu. So you just go summon that Res Effect Vader, there's a formula, or Slack Magician. It all depends. I think actually to properly, we can't really say which one's the best because we all play different decks. If we were all playing the exact same deck, we would then still run different ones. Because I know for a fact I would be running Chain and Breakthrough Skill. I could say Darkness Cell, he'd probably be running 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice, or 2 to 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice over the Fiendish Chains that I would be running, and maybe putting a few Effect Veilers in there just for trolls.
Again, mate, it comes down to personal preference of what the player likes to go for. I mean, if you're looking for an aspect to stop attacks, Fiendish Chain, fair enough, and obviously Chalice, obviously offensive, defensively. But the lineup, if in an ideal world, maybe, I would say side the Veilers, because essentially not everything you can gain the possibility off the hand trap. So I personally say main deadly. I say right now, go for 2 breakthrough skills and a single Chalice. And then you can side 2 Veilers if need be, and then you can just muck around and do what you want depending on the matchup. Yep.
Now, there was no argument there, so I think we've disappointed people. But going back...
Oh, style.
Oh, shut up, bruv. Shut up.
These are rumble.
I like Teddy.
Richie,
Yeah.
roll decree.
Oh!
Laughing my ass off right now. Good
Oh,
God.
Look, this is the
I
thing.
just got decreed!
Yeah, I don't think I can add him back. I've got the spinning beach ball of death.
You stopped your recording.
No, it's not stopped recording.
This is going to be the most entertaining episode of any podcast ever.
It was worth it. Right, so before we go into podcast's discussion tonight, I would like to discuss the Forbidden Trio. Dress, Chalice, and Lance. Which one is best out of the Chalice, out of the Forbidden series so far? Because, essentially, I personally think Forbidden Dress is a little bit underrated. Forbidden Dress essentially reads, you target one monster, it loses 600 attack, and then cannot be targeted, I believe the wording is.
Yes.
Cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't work in a chaining it like Lance does, because it doesn't stop Effect Veiler because obviously it's already being targeted. So resolve the chain. It can't be targeted, but Effect Veiler is already targeting it.
It can stop Effect Veiler.
No, because if they go Effect Veiler has already targeted the monster. So you flip up Dress. Dress means it can't be targeted, but it doesn't stop the fact that it's already being targeted.
Is this the same BS ruling as with Fiendish Chain? Not Fiendish Chain, Safe Zone.
Yeah, it's the same bollocks ruling. Essentially,
You're
if they
joking.
I'm not joking, that's the rules.
Aw.
I mean...
Well, it's just that you'd think it would be chainable. It chainable to that because it's a quick play spell, and Effect Veiler is basically a spell speed 1.
Yeah,
we need to errata both cards so that works.
Essentially, they do, because if that did work, I'd tell you one deck I'd be bloody playing. And here's a hint: it runs Natura Bamboo Shoot, because the only real threats to that deck are Solemn Warning and Effect Veiler, or any card that will negate the effect.
I hate Bamboo Shoot.
I know you do, Richie. I love you too. But I think Darkness Cell can qualify this ruling better than I can, because I know it's BS, but I think he knows a little bit more on the ruling side than I do.
Right. Basically, the whole aspect of this is it's essentially how the timing works on card effects. If, for example, the wording on Forbidden Dress says target one monster you control, blah 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 blah, cannot be showed by battle or by card effects.
No, it says it cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects.
It can't be targeted even that. Essentially, because the fact being it's already being targeted, because in you change dress, if things have been still resolved, essentially, it would be too late, because obviously the fact being it's already been targeted. If it was being played beforehand, fair enough, because obviously that way it can't be targeted completely. The fact being that if it was targeted by an effect in the first place before dress was activated, then obviously by the time dress resolves and finish resolving, it is too late for it to say, oh, it wasn't too late for it to be not being targeted, essentially. So example, alright, if you attack the monster into Deep Prison, yeah? You chain dress. Dress resolves, Deep Prison still needs to finish resolving, and because dress was not identified before Deep Prison was played, Deep Prison will go off, and you lose your monster.
Alright. So essentially,
That's
say
kind of crap.
if I summon a Bamboo Shoot, they say that is the summon is okay. I then would have to go chain to the summon, dress, or safe zone, so then they cannot Effect Veiler it.
Essentially, yes.
But the whole thing is
the same example as being, if example, obviously standard procedures, obviously you can't play Maxi and damage, blah 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 blah. But if you're reading Maxi, reading Gauze, you declare the attack, then you drop the Maxi.
You drop the Maxi in
and
response to the attack.
You'll get a drop for Gauze and off the token, because it's two separate summons.
Yeah, but essentially, my question with that ruling is, when the summon is successful, they can then drop Effect Veiler, right?
Well, essentially, for example,
How
there's
would
this
you?
whole thing now about obviously breakdown between response to effects and summons and whatever. So, for example, if the summon is successful, that means that essentially there is no response to the summon. So, for
Right.
example, essentially you summon the monster and you say, do you have a response to the summon or do you wish to negate? Or says, do you have a response to the card to the summon? They either proceed to warning or judgment or activate things in the process of bottomlesses or whatever. But, however, because of the wording on Bamboo Shoot, is the fact means when this card is truly summoned, your opponent cannot activate, or whatever it is the wording on Bamboo Shoot is.
Hang on,
Then
it's right in front of me.
essentially,
It
like you said, they'll
is-
have to essentially warn it or judgment, obviously, but in this situation, they can fail upon summon.
So essentially, if they Veiler upon summon, then you can't do your.
You can't
stupid
train dress, no, unless you've got debunked down.
I'm starting to be tempted to play that in the Naturias. But my point is that ruling is incredibly BS and it hinders the card's playability. It hinders Dress's playability. Because essentially, if Dress was able to stop Effect Veiler, wouldn't it be the most broken card of all time? Or one of the most hot cards of all time? Because, I can stop Effect Veiler, Fiendish Chain, Compulse, Deep Prison, Creature Swap, you name it, I can stop it. And also, it's a damage trick, so my Guiber can run over your monster.
It also stops things like Deep Prison as well.
It would also stop things like Deep Prison. It would only stop them if you go attack to the attack declaration, drop the dress.
Yeah, because I ran into one of those on Tuesday. Someone tried to play Deep Prison, I dropped the dress, so my monster was safe.
Yeah, essentially that wouldn't have worked because you can't play it like Forbidden Lance. Because Lance says it is unaffected by spells and traps. So essentially you go attack, they activate the Dimensional Prison or Compulse or whatever. You chain Lance, essentially it gains Wild Heart's effect. It's unaffected by traps, so it just goes, no. And the trap then fizzles. So, I mean...
So it stops targeting, but it basically doesn't stop the actual effect of the card going off.
No, because the card is already resolving, whereas with Dress... The Dress doesn't stop the card resolving, whereas with Lance just says, you cannot affect me. And Lance works...
This is really confusing.
It's all in the way the card's worded. If it said, if Dress read... The card is unaffected by monster effects or spells and traps. Monster effects and cannot be destroyed by spells and traps. Then you would be able to chain it because it's unaffected. It would be essentially a mini Lance with another boost, but it's just all in stupid wording.
Yeah.
I mean, we've discussed Forbidden Chalice at length, and if I am honest, my personal way of stacking these would be Lance, Chalice, Dress. With Dress, I can only see Dress getting better if they rule it the way I'd like it to. I mean, I'm still picking them up because I've got a feeling I know Konami and I know Kevin Two Art's a bit of an idiot, and he will probably rule Dress in the way that it gets around Effect Veiler.
Yeah. I've got 2 Lance,
That'd
2
be
Chalice,
pretty
and I've also got 2 Dress as well. But at the moment, I'm just taking 1 in the Blue Eyes Dragons, and it's actually working quite well in Blue Eyes Dragons.
I mean, essentially, it all depends on how you're playing. You have to learn a whole different way of playing Dress to do Chalice and Lance. Chalice and Lance, you can play damage step, which you can with Dress. You have to be more like summon any response to, or summon or attack any response to the declaration of the summon or the declaration of the attack or the summon, to where they can still do X, but you chain it to the summon. So you would go, for example, I'm using Bamboo Shoot here because it's easier. Bamboo Shoot, they say that's fine. They don't have the solemn warning. You chain Dress, then they can't Veiler. That's essentially how it would work. You have to play it preemptively. Cool. Dress is more of a preemptive card, unfortunately, compared to Lance and Chalice, which are more reactive. You have to, essentially, to play Dress properly, you have to make good reads.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I think it could have been a really, really good card. well, it could have been a lot better than it is currently if it had been worded the way I wanted
it is a good card. It's just the fact being of, if you, say, for example, in a situation where you've got near enough game on board and they draw, essentially do what I do, and obviously draw Maxi in case they do some stupid plays this turn, especially something like Mad, or in this case scenario, if you're reading something, or if you know you're in a good situation, just go, okay, I'll just dress this, and obviously go from there.
Yeah, that's
well, I have to admit, Forbidden Dress works quite well for me because obviously the blue eyes anyway, in general, are very vulnerable to destruction effects and everything. Between Lance and Chalice, it'd be very difficult to use because I'd have to use both of them to make them effective to use in Blue Eyes Dragons, to be honest. But Forbidden Dress, I only need to tech one, and it does its job depending on the situation.
Yeah. I mean, I tech one Forbidden Dress in my Chain Beat deck purely because when you're making a push for game with your monsters, admittedly, all the 6 of the monsters out of the 10 I run cannot be realistically affected by anything other than like the Solemn Brigade, or essentially the Solemn Brigade. So you're quite safe. But when you're thinking, right, well, I want to try and game them, you can dress, say, your Wind Up Rabbit or your Thunderbird, swing with it. If you've got a clear board, if you've, say, fired off a Raigeki Ball and blown their field, or you've brought them back after a Torrential or Needle Sting, you can then dress him, swing into that back row without fear of anything. You know for definite that damage is going through, and you don't have to banish it. So it's essentially just a sort of card which you can say, I'm making sure my plays go through.
Yeah.
You have to play it as that. You can't play it, set it, and reactively activate unless you're sure that that is going to get you game.
Well,
It's more of a card to say, no, I'm doing my plays, bitch.
To simplify it, it's a pressure card.
Yeah, it's a card to put pressure on your opponent.
Pretty much.
So, how would you guys actually rank these? I know you've had mine and Emma's opinions on these. So, how would the other 3 of you rank these?
It's hard. It's pretty difficult. I mean, I don't play any of these cards. I don't even own a single copy. But I suppose I'd probably, from top to bottom, I'd go Lance, Chalice, and Dress. Dress at 3 just because of what we discussed about it earlier. I guess Lance over Chalice because I guess it depends on the deck. I mean, Lance stops more things than Chalice does.
Yeah,
That's just the way I see it.
Essentially. So
I pretty much put it the same way, because, I mean, from what I hear about Dress, it's just kind of The only 2 times I've really seen Chalice in action were Forbidden Chalice Karibo for game, and when I was on the DS, I was doing a 2-on-1 teaming up with Callan, and he used Forbidden Chalice on my Blackwing Dragon, then had 4 black for the counters, so we went for game with it.
LOL.
And that was awesome. And Lance is just insane, because a couple of weeks ago I just randomly put a Photon deck together, ran a couple of Lance. I only summoned out Galaxy Eyes and Photon Lizard in that game, and I had Lance set in case I needed it, and it did not matter what the opponent did, the Lance along with Galaxy Eyes' effect was going to ensure that I kept a 3k beat stick on the field.
Yeah, that's essentially why I like Dress in certain decks, because it ensures that I'm going to be doing shit.
Yeah, I prefer Dress over the other 2 for, as I said, for Blue Eyes Dragons, just because, not just because of it stops targeting it, just because Blue Eyes is vulnerable to destruction. That stops destruction if I don't have Lad on the field.
Yeah, essentially. I can see it being played more in slow Dress. This is. I can see Dress being played more in more slow-paced decks, or decks such as, I'm going to say, things that like to just sit on one boss monster like Blue Eyes and Asturias, or even I could see myself taking a couple in my Mystic Piper deck just because I can go, right, I've got BLS, you've got 5 back row, I'm dressing this BLS, swing, fuck you. But anyway, I think that's enough for this topic. I think we've rambled on for long enough. So let's go into podcaster discussion. There are no set topics for tonight, so essentially, go nuts, guys.
Alright, I think the first one I would like to discuss is a potential, the Harpy deck potential, because earlier today, I mean, it's inconsistent and stuff like that, but I saw a video done by MCO40 for a potential Harpy oh, excuse me.
That's you.
That's you.
Sorry about that, gentlemen. A potential FTK using Harpy Dancer. If you don't know...
I'll provide the link below so you can go and watch that video. But essentially it revolves around Ancient Fairy Dragon, Power Tool Dragon, and the whole Divine...
And that Phoenix fusion monster that does burn damage.
Blaze Phoenix, the Burning Bombardment Bird.
There you go.
And I think it revolves around Phantom Beast playing Draco Sack, which is essentially mine and Dark Myself's new favourite monster because of the planes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rufflecopters, Barneys, Sackwax, you name it.
What?
We got bored. Essentially, that FTK is like all the other Blaze Phoenix FTKs, incredibly fucking inconsistent. Because essentially, look, if you watch the video, I've only watched it once, and essentially you have to open with Dancer and be able to get... It's a sequence of plays that is so easily interrupted with an Effect Veiler, a Max C even, because you'll Max C into an Effect Veiler to stop the combo. Even if you've gone first, you've got your... Obviously, like we've discussed, you've got Chalices, Chains, Breakthrough Skills, fucking whatever, to just stop effects. So it's... I think FTKs are kind of like this, are over-reliant on their effects, because one Effect Veiler and they go...
Yeah, well, I wasn't just... to be honest, I wasn't just wanting to mention that a potential FTK has been found with the Harpy cards. I think the other thing I wanted to
Did you say herpes?
Harpy.
Herpes?
And the other thing I want to discuss about this is why, whenever there's new support for old archetypes or new cards in general, why everybody instantly looks for FTKs and OTKs, which just take out the fun part of the game.
Essentially, people look for the OTKs. I don't agree with FTKs because I think they're stupid, but OTKs, if you're looking at an OTK, that it's like players like to go, oh, I can do this, and this, and all these cool combos, and then I win. That's essentially like it. Playing an OTK deck is like just having your toy box and going, oh, I can build this out of Lego, and that, and now I've run out of bits. That's essentially what an OTK deck is. It's like, if you don't get the right hand, it's like running out of a certain Lego piece, is the way I like to put it. And essentially, it's a combo deck. OTK is a combo. You can't just, oh, I OTK with one card. There is no one card OTK in the game, bar maybe Infernity Archfiend, but even then you have to have the graveyard stocked a specific way for Archfiend to make an OTK and certain cards in deck for it to be an OTK, so I don't really care.
I mean, if there's a build up to an OTK, I don't mind that, but when you actually try to do it within the first 2 or 3 turns of a duel or in the first turn, it's like you're just, it takes the fun out of the game.
You're just touching yourself, essentially.
I know, it's ridiculous. I mean, don't get me wrong, if a player sees an opportunity to win the duel on that turn, then go for it. But building a deck just to win in like the first 2 minutes is just...
It's ridiculous.
It's just exactly. Ridiculous, annoying, and it gives the impression that you're more interested in winning than anything else.
And also exactly. There are... For example, there is another deck which everybody knows I absolutely hate with passion, which is the Blue Eyes Exodia FTK deck. Now,
did I mention I nearly finished building that?
Oh, what?
I'm joking. If I'm playing Exodia, it has to be Mystic Viper.
You are lucky you didn't see my face there. I was going to come and kill you.
The thing is,
Dual disc, freshly sharpened, ready to go.
The thing is, with Blue Eyes FTK, it's about as consistent as trying to go to the bathroom of a YCS when your name's a certain Mr. Leonard and not get disqualified because you had a whack. Or it's like going into the bathroom after Leonard realising you need a shit when there's no toilet paper. Anyway, we're moving on from Luke Leonard jokes as much as I love making them.
Right, anyway, I absolutely hate that deck because to me it abuses Blue Eyes. It just uses the engine. It doesn't do anything with the Blue Eyes itself because
It's an insult.
to be honest, the thing is, there was a troll who said he was absolutely ashamed of my deck ever being up on YouTube. This was when I first started my YouTube, but this was like a while ago. And he said he was a big Blue Eyes lover, but then I found out he ran a Blue Eyes FTK deck, and apparently, now this is just a rumour I heard about him, apparently he was trying to collect all Blue Eyes possible so he could chuck them in the ocean and keep 3 to be Kaiba.
Really? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And he said my deck was a shame to the game, and I was like, yeah, look at yours.
Essentially, people like that need to go out, buy a gun, don't care how you get it, then stick the barrel in your mouth and pull the trigger because you're absolute wankers. Either that, or you need to get 2 of your ribs removed and try and wrench your head out of your arse because you've already clearly got it stuck up there.
Sure.
Go get a new brain.
Well, essentially, there's one guy at my locals, and he every time I play something, he instantly every time, what's your list? What's your list? It's like I was playing Insectors, standard Insectors with a few techs, but pretty much standard Insectors. What's your list? Oh, fuck off! Go on YouTube. It's not hard to go Insector deck 2012. I'll type it down. I'll get the cards. It's like, come on.
Exactly.
I was playing Mystic Piper Exodia. What I can understand him asking for that list because it's not too. It's kind of hard to build.
It's kind of unique.
Yeah. Then when I go playing here at Bubblebee, what's your list? What's your list? Fuck off! Am I giving you my list? It's fucking Bubblebee. Ugh.
There are 1,000 videos depicting that goddamn deck. Go look for one. It's not like finding a needle in a haystack or a key in a needle stack.
No, I'm not. I'm actually, yeah. Or finding a woman at a Yu-Gi-Oh event. It's like It's not like especially that you're going to a Yu-Gi-Oh event to try and pick up women.
Pardon?
It's essentially trying to find a Bubble Beat deck on YouTube. It's not especially like you're going to a Yu-Gi-Oh event trying to get a girlfriend, is it? It's like, come on. But
Awkward turtles.
Yes, my friend, awkward turtles.
I want a turtle. I want a turtle.
You want a turtle?
That's kind of interesting. Some guys go and do that when a lot of guys aren't really happy to see a girl play the game.
Oh, it's funny. There's one guy who turned around, who actually genuinely said, "How did you get your girlfriend to play Yu-Gi-Oh?" I met her through playing this game. Okay, where'd you meet women like that? Well, I know quite a few who play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I met my last girlfriend at a Yu-Gi-Oh event.
I met my last girlfriend through going to a Yu-Gi-Oh event and then looking at her boyfriend and going, he's a twat. But we're not going into that. Essentially, it's like the amount of people who say, oh, no women are into nerdy things. And it's like, well, hello, have you seen half the women who do cosplay? And I'm not talking about the ones who insist on eating the entire Greg's cream cake collection and then wearing hot pants when you really know they shouldn't. I'm talking about the nice looking ones. The ones who don't look like they should.
God.
They have more rolls than a Hovis factory and more spare tires than Quick Fit. But anyway, sorry, sexism over. Sexism over.
It's okay, we know what you're like.
Yeah, essentially. So, is there anything else people want to discuss in podcasters' discussion tonight?
Can't really think of anything.
I kind of thought we could try discussing the Shark Drake OTK build.
Oh, that's fun.
Because I thought that was something rather unique and interesting.
It is.
And
It is really unique, and because we're getting Tin Goldfish in Hidden Arsenal 7, which comes out, I think it's April, isn't it?
sometime April, I believe.
I'll need to check the days.
Essentially, for those of you who don't know, Shark Drake OTK relies on when you're going, you summon Tin Goldfish or
Rotting
Captain. Special summon Heroic Champion Extra Sword. Play Inferno Reckless Summon, you get 3 of them. You overlay those 3 for Shark Drake, who's then on 5800 because the Heroic Champion Extra Sword gives it, when it's used for an Xyz material, it gains a grand attack. Swing, detach, swing, thumbs up.
Yeah, you're going to rip bloody life points out up the wazoo. So
And plus, with that, you can also go into things like Shockmaster or so what's that 3 level 4 synchro that's essentially Catasta?
Violent Sigma,
That's the one.
yeah, that thing's pretty incredible. And you've just got a whole bunch of stuff. And the one, because I'm building a deck like this, and I decided to throw in a random tech card, Level Tuning, a common from all the way back in Light of Destruction, reduces the levels of all monsters you control by 1. This essentially gives you the power to beef up all rank 3 seasons. Stuff like Zen Mines if you have 2 of
Oh god,
two
Zen mains
extra
with
swords.
Zen mains with 3500 attack. Bruv, help me
Zen
here.
Mines on 35 that can protect himself twice. You know, Tempo that goes to 37 and then steals an opponent's overlay unit and goes to 42. Leviathan hits 4k and still is able to attack directly because he still has overlay units. There's just so much you can do.
It's
with this,
essentially
with that card.
It's essentially an Exceed pump up deck. I know it's sort of a strategy I'd like, but and even you could even go like if there was a way to bring out Heroic Champion Extra Sword with like a card with essentially a card like Rescue Rabbit, that'd be really interesting.
Actually, it's not a champion.
Oh, it's Challenger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Essentially, if there was a way to bring that out with Rescue Rabbit, that'd be really cool. Like, or a card like Rescue Rabbit, because you'd be like Rabbit. Yeah, that's too dumb. That's too dumb.
Like I've got an extra deck pretty much set up here for my deck. There's a whole bunch like Excalibur. You use 2 extra swords. That's a 4k beat stick. Drop its overlay units 8,000.
Blade Armor
Shockmaster
Ninja
goes to 5,300. Steel Swarm Roach can go to 3,900. Blade Armor 42 detached, so it hits twice.
See, this deck.
Maestro goes to 38 and it uses books.
This deck is
insane.
This deck isn't essentially an OTK. It's more of a pump up Exceeds and make massive monsters deck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't focus entirely on the Shark Drake OTK. The only time I've used the deck, though, I did use the Shark Drake OTK because it was just kind of there, and I could have gone for game. But you know what? Most Shark Drake OTK decks run a playset of Shark Drake. I'm only running 2, and they usually go with maybe 2 or 3 Shark Drake Vice. I've only got the 1. I think that's all I need, pretty much.
Shark Drake Vice.
Yeah, Shark Drake Vice.
I love that card.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But
it just kind of sucks how situational it is. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear the rest of your guys' opinions on this OTK with Shark Drake, because essentially it's really kind of different. It's not like you're going to go, oh, these 2 cards I auto win. It's not Magician Shark. Admittedly, Magician Shark is kind of funny when you can go into Leo Arms, Utopia, and do stuff.
Yeah. What I can't wait for is our number 47 Nightmare Shark. If you haven't seen that, it's actually a pretty decent and very devious kind of card. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Number 47. See if I can
April
put the link here to the chat.
April 19th, I thought that's
which Hidden Arsenal 7 comes up, yeah.
Yeah. Is it just me, or just quickly, is Hidden Arsenal 7 going to be incredibly broken?
Pardon?
Is Hidden Arsenal 7 going to be incredibly broken?
I don't know.
Oh, so many constellars and shit.
Oh, I remember.
Crazy.
I remember this card. Darkness.
Yeah,
you were
this
talking
thing's-
about how broken this was going to be.
Yeah, this is hella devious. In this Vice Challenger deck I have, I can make this a 4K beast stick that can attack directly. You have Bahamut Shark as well. Bahamut Shark brings this out. Its effect gives it an overlay unit, detached, so it hits for $2,000. And then, like, if you use rank Magic Variance Force, you can put Shark Drake Vice over this.
God, that's a combo. But yeah, Darkness Cell.
Crazy.
You were talking about number 47, Dumb Shark.
Nightmare Shark. It will be a nightmare when it comes out, believe me. But it's Seal Manga Volume 4 promo, so
Yeah.
I don't think TCG is going to see that for a while.
No. Now, question for everyone in this chat. What do you think of the upcoming Hidden Arsenal set? Just a random thing, because we know we're getting it. So essentially, we're getting Ophion, the Constellar Walking Compulse and Rank 7 thing, and something else. I mean, we will be doing a set overview in a future episode for those of you watching at home or that have put up with this hour and a half episode. But I essentially want to know your guys' opinions on this before we sign off, because that will segue nicely into our next episode.
To be honest with you, there's nothing that really interests me in Hidden Arsenal 7, although it is nice to see the Constellars come out. They look interesting because I've gone up against one or two decks of theirs on Dual Network, and they were very interesting to say the least. I like how they're named after constellations and stuff, but other than that, at this moment in time, there's nothing that really interests me in Hidden Arsenal 7, but I could be proven wrong by the time the next episode comes around, so...
Yeah. The only thing I'm really interested in is the Tin Goldfish. I do kind of like how they have like the Esper Star Sparrow and all that sort of stuff coming out as well. I think that could be pretty interesting. I don't like the fact that there's bloody Gusto stuff though. I hate them. I had very, very bad experiences with Gusto.
Right, what do you think, Darkness? Hidden Arsenal 7, is it going to wreck face?
Yes.
Yes. Essentially, yes. Before we do the set overview, Ophion is a dirty, dirty, dirty card.
What the hell is this thing at? Where the hell is it?
Dark Magician? What do you think about it?
What's worse, Ophion is basically a rank 5 that you even play as you can bounce a monster. Great.
Is that Constellar Beehive? It's not Beehive, it's Constellar something. It's dumb.
Yeah. We'll
go into more detail on this in our next episode. So before we close, Dark Magician, any final thoughts on Hidden Arsenal 7?
Not a lot at the moment. I haven't really looked at this set, but I've just seen on Yuigoh Wiki that it's apparently going to be the final series of Hidden Arsenal.
Oh, that's interesting. Anyway,
that's what it says. It's the 7th and final series of Hidden Arsenal.
So I wonder how we're going to be getting the rest of the Constellars and the rest of the Evil Swarms as well, because if we're not getting
maybe they'll just rehash it and name it something different.
Yeah, then maybe they'll do what they did with Battle Pack. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to bring this episode to a close because we're coming up to an hour and a half. So from everyone here, I'm going to say goodbye. So from Emma Blysten.
Good night, everybody, and pleasant dreams.
Draconeus.
Thank you very much. I'm spent, and if you're driving home tonight, don't forget your car. Bye.
Dark Magician 84.
See you later, au revoir, adieu, farewell, bye.
And the man with quite a big Mystic Piper-based plan is Darkness Cell, 1989.
Hugs, not drugs, my friends.
Hugs, not drugs, indeed. So this is Scapegoatuser, host of the Stonking Great Yuigoh podcast, saying goodbye and thanks for all the fish.